Welcome, Michael RCH. You're the top. You're the tops today. 1,001 Pine points for you. Are the notifications working today? Because they weren't yesterday. Eric says, I really needed this distraction right now. Thanks. Why is that? Are you not doing well today? I caught a bass in PineCreek or PineCreek. It weighed 10 pounds. An apologetic bass. I'm going to give my opinion on, from my perspective, on all these apologists in this March Madness, which I think is madness in itself. I guess it's something to do and it's fun, but I wonder how many feelings are being hurt here from some of these apologists. Oh my goodness! But even though it's my opinion, I'm going to give you 4 categories that I'm going to rate these guys: intellectual capacity, how intelligent I think they are; emotional stability, how easily they're upset; popularity, and effectiveness. So those are my 4 criteria. And I'm not. Well, we'll see how this goes. Some of these guys I don't even know, but we'll start at, what is this? This is the Elite 8. I guess they're getting close to the Final 4. And then we'll see who wins this. Okay, we're going to start with Ravi Zacharias and Matt Whitman. I'm familiar with both. Ravi Zacharias used to be one of my favorite apologists when I was a Christian. I found that he was very articulate, great storyteller. But now as an atheist, I look at him and I look at some of the questions he's asked, and he takes so long to get there. I think even you're a Christian, you can see that he bloviates a little bit too much. Intellectually, I would say Ravi is above average, emotionally below average. I think the fact that the reason why he's even a Christian is because he felt bad that his brothers were outdoing him, and he didn't get enough love from his dad and so forth. You can look up his own testimony. He'll say this. So emotionally, I think he's very fragile, and he needs to present himself as someone as intellectual. And I think he's above average intelligence, but he just desperately needs people to see that in him. And this is why I think he even there's allegations of him faking his background. I won't get into that, though. Popularity, he's very popular. Effectiveness, I think he is quite effective, but I think he's losing his effectiveness. And I think there's rumors that he has bone cancer right now, so I'm not sure if this is mostly a sympathy vote that he got here to the Elite 8. Matt Whitman, I just did a video on him. It's interesting. If he wins this, he might be the first non-Christian to win the Christian Apologist March Madness tournament. At least according to the video I reviewed, seems like he's on the fence and sometimes leans towards not believing in Christianity, but I'm sure he's deep down a true Christian, right? Intellectual, I'd say he's average. Emotional, I'd say above average. I think he's a pretty stable guy. Popularity, above average. I think he's more popular than Ravi right now just because of YouTube. And effectiveness, I think he's way more effective than Ravi Zacharias in what he does because he seems more real. He talks like someone you would play golf with. Ravi Zacharias, no. You would never get any golfing done if you golfed with Ravi Zacharias. Okay, let's go down. Lee Strobel and John Lennox. Lee Strobel, I think, is below average intellect. Emotionally, I think he's below average. Popularity, above average. And effectiveness, I think he's losing his effectiveness. I would say average. He's probably still average because he still has a lot of effect. My guess is he has more popularity and effectiveness with the older crowd. John Lennox, oh my goodness, this guy bothers me for some reason. Not just if he could be talking about the weather and he would still bother me. You know, the personality types are the types of people that just, yeah. Intellect, I think he is above average. Emotional, I think he's above average. He's a pretty stable guy. Popularity, I think he's losing it fast. I'm not sure. Is it just Twitter that votes on him here? I think the votes he gets on Twitter must be from the people over 40. I think he's still very popular for the people over 40 and maybe it's still a lot of younger people. So above average popularity. Effectiveness, he's more or less, well, from an atheist perspective, he's not effective at all. He almost borders, he talks about the evidence about first cause and so forth, but he's almost bordering on a precept, like having the basis for certain things. Like if you can't account for X, Y, and Z, then, I think that's where he tends to come from, the tag arguments. Okay, so those are the top 4 there so far. Dang, Doug, you're so blunt. Yeah. Well, I'm just telling you what I think here. This is my opinion. Okay, we already talked about Ravi. Josh McDowell. Okay, intellectual, way below average in my opinion. Emotional, probably average. Popularity, way above average. Effectiveness, above average. I think he almost has that gosh darn it type flavor to him, which I think makes him popular and effective. But again, I think a lot of these guys, they're getting old. They were more effective back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they probably already made the money that they need, so they're not too worried. Greg Koukl. Yes, I've talked to him. He was up against Matt Whitman, and Matt Whitman beat him barely, it looks like, 53-47. Greg Koukl, intellectual, I would say above average. Emotionally, I would say average to below average. I think he feels the need to present himself in a certain way to not look stupid, even though I think he's probably average to above average intelligence. Popularity, I would say average to below average. I think he's losing it. He even admitted that his effectiveness, getting to effectiveness, that he's more effective in helping other apologists rather than actually being effective to the people and the grassroots level. Okay. Talked about Lee Strobel. Vocab Malone. How in the heck did he get here? Intellectual, below average. Emotional, probably. Is he easily upset? I don't think so. I think I'd give him average on that. Popularity, I guess with some kids he's popular, I guess. He got this far, but on the big scheme of things, I'd say below average. Effectiveness, below average. Frank Turek was against John Lennox. John Lennox beat him 58-42. Frank Turek, intellectual, I'd say below average. Emotional, above average. He's a pretty stable guy. Popularity, I think he's above average popularity right now. Effectiveness, I would say 10 years ago he was highly effective. I think he's losing it. You just see even Christians, younger Christians, the way they question him on his Q&As at the end of his shows. You can tell that they're not buying it. A lot of them are not buying it. Okay, so that was the Sweet 16, round of 32. I'll just talk about the guys I've already talked about. Bill Roach. You know what? That's the first name I don't know. Do you guys know this guy? Bill Roach. Nope, don't know him. Tim Barnett. Yeah. I know him. Intellect? I'd say above average. Emotional, above average. Popularity, above average. Effectiveness, above average. In fact, I think Tim Barnett should probably be farther down to the right than he is. Josh McDowell. Intellect? I already talked about him. Yeah. Matt Whitman. Tim Keller. Here we go. He's the New Yorker. Intellect, I'd probably say above average. Emotional, above average. Popularity, above average. Effectiveness, I think above average. Yeah, I'd say he's probably a good apologist for Christians. From my point of view, he's almost like the John Lennox type. If he was to be face to face with a guy like me, I think his backup plan would be just talk about the basis for certain things. Smart apologists won't talk about the evidence with guys like me. They could say, well, I know things way more things than Doug does, but they are smart enough to realize that every piece of that cumulative case can be doubted, and that's why they need a whole bunch of it to make it seem stronger. So the smart apologists will tend to focus on the big stuff, and if that's what I would do if I was them. Greg Koukl versus Hugh Ross. Greg Koukl trounced Hugh Ross. Look at that. Hugh Ross, intellectual. You know what? I'd just give it average at best. Emotional, average to below average. I think he desperately needs to believe this stuff. Popularity, I think back in the 70s and 80s, he was more popular than he is now, but I could be wrong about that. Effectiveness, I'd say below average. So yeah, I can see why Greg Koukl trounced him. Like Hugh Ross was on these Pentecostal type leaning programs. Well, I forget their names. It was TBN type stuff, Trinity Broadcasting Network. I don't know. Back in the 80s, and making outlandish predictions and asking for money, and it's like, yeah, I should have another category of integrity here. Alvin Plantinga, intellectual above average, emotional above average, popularity probably below average. He's only appealing to the philosophical minded types. Effectiveness, I'd say below average, again for the same reason. Sorry to all the people who love philosophy, but most of the world does not care. They don't care what you care about. Richard Swinburne, I'd probably give him very similar to Alvin Plantinga. Intellectual above average, emotional above average, popularity below average, effectiveness below average. Yeah. Most of these philosophical type guys and most of the Calvinist type guys, on average, a Calvinist will be a higher intellect than a non-Calvinist. Oh boy, are people going to hate me for saying that. But I actually believe that. And I think I saw some data on that too. If you look at Presbyterian churches, education levels, when I say intellect, I'm kind of melding that with education, higher education. But even that's, so yeah, in general, most of the, like Richard Swinburne, and I'm not sure if Richard Swinburne's a Calvinist, but I'm quite sure Alvin Plantinga is. Calvinists in general are more intelligent than non-Calvinists. I'll say it. And if that makes you feel bad, the non-Calvinists, so be it. What do you mean? Whoa, you got this far? Congratulations. Good job. But you got trounced by Frank Turek. What do you mean? Intellectual, below average, in my opinion. Emotionally, I'd say average. I think he's been around the block and he has a thick skin. Popularity, above average. Effectiveness, I would say average to above average. I think he has that cool kid demeanor. But I've watched a few of his videos. Like, you can tell he's trying to make money out of this, so yeah. Alistair McGrath. Oh, man, that's the second name I don't know. By the way, if you're an apologist listening and you don't care about these other people, you just want to know what I think of you, you can bring up the transcript later and do a word search on your name. I recognize Alistair McGrath, but I really haven't heard any of his stuff. So I'm going to pass on him. Oh, look at this. William Lane Craig. Intellect, I would say above average. Emotional stability, below average. Popular. Well, let me back up on that one. When he's debating, he's fine. But, let me back up again. It's like you could almost feel him wanting to cry when he's talking to guys like Jordan Peterson about, well, if the world comes to an end, why should I care? I'm going to say he's emotionally below average. Popularity, I think a lot of people who love William Lane Craig think he's popular, but he really isn't. So I'm going to say below average. Effectiveness, I'm going to say below average. I think for the same reason Alvin Plantinga, Richard Swinburne. Let me be very clear. These types of apologists / philosophers, most Christians in the United States do not care about it. Okay, here we go. Oh boy, my goodness, Gary Habermas got smacked by James White. Gary Habermas, intellect, below average in my opinion. Emotional stability, below average in my opinion. Popularity, below average in my opinion. And effectiveness. I would say average. He's effective in pushing that minimal facts thing, which is, I think, effective for Christians. But by the way, when I say effectiveness, I'm talking about from what I think is how most Christians view it. So yeah, no, Gary Habermas, no. Mike Winger got up to round of 32. Intellectual, I'm going to say average. Emotional, way below average. Popularity, above average. Effectiveness, he's effective to the people who are hurting, the people who need to feel smart, the people who are desperate. So he's very effective to those people. But for Christians who are stable, who almost don't even need God, he's not effective. I would hate to see Mike Winger's inbox of the people who are pleading for help and prayer. Michael Brown, intellect, below average. Emotional, below average. Popularity, he's popular with the charismatics, so I'm going to have to give him overall average to above average. Effectiveness, in a way, I'm going to give him above average in the sense that even non-Christians, when they hear Michael Brown, you can tell, I can disagree with him 100% on almost everything he says, but you can tell that the reason he believes is a personal experience, and you gotta, and I think, as much as he talks about the evidence, I think he would admit that he falls back on that. In fact, I've talked to Michael Brown personally, and I talked about my sister and so forth and what kind of miracle I would need to see. And he totally got that. He understood. He said, yeah, I understand that when you hear miracles coming from overseas, that you don't believe it. I totally get that. And if it's personal to you, so the fact that he's real about that, I would say helps him be effective. Sean McDowell versus Justin Brierley. How come I missed Sean McDowell before? Did I miss the Sweet 16? Oh, well. Sean McDowell, intellect. I say average. Emotional stability. I say above average. I think he has a thick skin and can take things. Popularity. I'd say below average. I think he never caught up to his dad. Hey, thank Kent Hovind CPAs in the live stream. Psi 9 is the best at saying, how do you know that? I like that. I like that Psi 9 instead of Psi 10. Effectiveness, did I say Sean McDowell's effectiveness? Yeah, he never quite caught up to his dad. Justin Brierley, intellectual, I'd say average. Emotional, above average. I think he actually is way more liberal than a lot of Christians like. And that helps him be, I think, more stable emotionally as far as hearing other points of view, other worldviews, and not freaking out. Popularity, above average. Effectiveness, above average. So I'm surprised he lost to Sean McDowell, to be honest. Let me quickly take a look at the Sweet 16 that I might have missed. Talked about them. Got that. Okay, let's go to round 64. Did him, don't know him. Did it, don't know her. Don't know. Oh, Cameron Bertuzzi versus Richard Swinburne. Well, that's an unfortunate bracket because I think Richard Swinburne is Cameron's one of Cameron's heroes, maybe. But, good run for his money. Cameron Bertuzzi, okay, intellect, I'd say below average. Emotional stability, below average for Cameron. Popularity, I'd say average. And effectiveness, he's effective at stirring the pot, riling things up. That's how he got popular in the first place, is he would just, he used street epistemology as a platform to get things rolling. He would go into Facebook's groups and get things stirred up. He wouldn't answer questions. He's changed greatly now that he has a following and he doesn't need to stir things up. He's backed right off. But I'm on record as saying he's one of the most horrible Christians I've ever interacted with. Is that too much? And it's basically because of how he... Actually, no, I won't go into that. Frank Turek versus John. I don't know Jonathan Morrow. What do you mean? Christian defenders don't know. Fazali Rana. I think I know who that is. Yeah, I know who that is. Intellect, above average. Emotional stability, above average. Popularity, way below average. I think most people don't know who he is. Effectiveness, he's more so... what's his main shtick? I think it's more the accounting for stuff, maybe even cosmological. He's like the scientist turned apologist type. So effectiveness, I don't know. Probably still below average. I can understand why he only got 12% here. Sorry, Douglas, I don't know you. Alistair McGrath. Yeah, I still don't know him. Oh, I know Mary Jo Sharp. The first female I think I've seen on here. Oh, no, I mentioned other females here. Mary Jo. I actually think she's above average intellect from the stuff I've watched of her. She did a video on doubt, I believe, the different types of doubt, and I really liked it. And I liked it so much, I reached out to her to come on my show about 2 years ago. She said she was busy and but she was still open to it. And I contacted her again and same thing. And then I even got James from Modern Day Debate to try to get her to talk with me, and that never happened. So, yeah. Popularity, yeah, she's not well known, below average. Effectiveness, I think she's effective. I'd say above average. Emotional stability, above average. Intellect, yeah, I don't know. I'd say above average. Inspiring philosophy versus Stephen Meyer, 52 for what? Inspiring philosophy only won by 4? Oh my goodness. Spill the tea. No, I won't. Sorry. By the way, I can tell, like, there's 89 viewers. This is not going to come into the subscription feed until 24 hours from now. And then I'm going to get way more views from this than I am now. And usually it's the other way around. So something's definitely wrong with YouTube. Okay, inspiring philosophy. Intellectual, I'm going to just say average. Emotional stability, above average. Even though he suffers, I think he's on record saying this, that he suffers from depression. I think he has it under control. Popularity, above average. Effectiveness, I'd say, I think, yeah, for Christians, he's above average. So there's a reason why he has a big YouTube channel. I think a lot of Christians, even though I say above average for effectiveness from the Christian point of view, I think there's a lot of Christians who are very hesitant with some of the things he says. And I'm sure he realizes that. In fact, when I interviewed him, one of my first questions was, what church do you go to and do you get along there? Like, do people in church think you're nuts? Like, there's not too many idealists in evangelical circles. Once you start saying that reality is an image from the mind of God or something like that. Like you've shut off a lot of the camaraderie in those small groups. I don't think SJ's in here. God equals the square root of 1. I don't think I even saw her. Yeah, Reed says still not my subscription feed. So the people that are here now are basically the people who know me through Twitter and Facebook group. Francis Collins. Oh yeah. Well, intellect above average. He has a PhD in he has a real degree. Basically, I'm going to give you my opinion here. If you have a PhD in theology or biblical studies or divinity or pastoral studies, I don't view that as anything. I don't view that as a real PhD. I don't. I do not. Now, that does speak to your perseverance and that you're a hard worker, but as far as, no, sorry. I don't view that as anything. And most of the world doesn't care either about what you got your PhD in, if it's in divinity and, yeah. So Francis Collins, I don't know. I would say, I know Francis Collins became a Christian because wasn't he the one who said he saw water falling and it froze in the form of the Trinity? My guess is emotional stability. He might be average to below average, if that's the truth. Popularity, I think he's popular in some circles. Biologos, for sure. But overall, I'd say just average. Effectiveness, I'd say below average. I think most people don't care about, most Christians don't care about him unless they need him to feel smart or something. I don't know. And that's probably why he got trounced 80-20. Paul Copan. Did I talk about James White yet? Yeah, I did, didn't I? Oh, yeah. Paul Copan. Intellect, below average. I actually don't know him that well. Maybe I should just skip him. Oh, I'm going to skip him. But did I do James White? Hang on a second. I'm getting an important message. Yeah, see, Reed just messaged me that YouTube's not even showing that I'm live right now. Isn't that weird? If I haven't done James White, I'll quickly do it. Intellect, I actually say above average. Emotional stability, above average. Popularity, above average. Effectiveness, I'd say above average. I think apologists who know what they believe and stand on it pretty strong. Again, the precepts who just say this is the way it is, they will be more effective than the wishy-washy, well, let's look at the evidence type people. They will be seen as providing a higher level of confidence and certainty to the followers who need it. And so that's why they're more effective. We already talked about Mike Winger. Craig Evans, intellect, I would say above average. He's a full-fledged historian. Emotional stability, above average. Popularity, he's way more popular than Gary. Well, to me, he's more effective and popular than Gary Habermas, but maybe not to the typical Christian in the United States. He probably isn't. Well, yeah, that's why he lost to Mike Winger, for goodness sake. Daniel Wallace. Intellect, I'd say above average. Emotional stability, above average. Popularity, above average. At least when it comes to the apologists who consider themselves historians, that niche. You have Dan Wallace, you have Craig Evans, you have Michael Licona. Who am I missing? Craig Keener. Those are the big four, I think, of the kind of real historians amongst evangelical circles. And I think Dan Wallace is probably high on that list of the four. Don't know. Lydia McGrew versus Braxton Hunter. Oh, good for you, Braxton. You trounced her. Well, let's start with Braxton. Intellect, I would say Braxton's probably average intellect. Emotional stability, below average. One of the first interactions I had with Braxton was on his YouTube channel comment section. We were doing a back and forth, and then he also asked me to review one of his papers or something, and I said no. And I didn't even give him an explanation. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. And I forget what happened, but I just remember him like kind of freaking out that I just said no to a favor. I thought he viewed it as a rejection to him as a person or something. And then he deleted it. And I was like, whoa. So I think Braxton's the type of person who needs to be loved. We all need to be loved, but I think he needs more love than the average person. Lydia McGrew, Braxton, popularity. I think he might run into problems if he focuses on atheists too much. Like, I think a lot of apologists might say to Braxton that he's wasting his time, especially if he's focusing on such a small segment. Like the nuns, Nones in the United States, a lot of them still believe in a higher power or new age or stuff like that. They don't call themselves atheists. So I think maybe the reason why Braxton Hunter focuses in on atheists is because maybe he does feel stupid at times and is trying to cater to other Christians who feel stupid when interacting with atheists. And so he's saying, don't worry, you don't have to feel stupid. We have really good arguments. Lydia McGrew, intellect. This is a tough one. I actually think she is above average intellect. But emotionally stability, I think she's way below. Like when someone says that they will die for their belief in the resurrection and then is trying to write sort of what should be peer-reviewed articles and research, it's like something doesn't add up. She needs this to be true. She wants this desperately true. I think there's another quote that I saw where, and it's in one of the videos I did, where she said that she realized early on that she needed to defend the historicity of the New Testament. And yeah. So she's out there purposely trying to defend something because she realized how important it is. And yeah, she does have a real PhD, I think. What is it? Is it in English literature or something? I forget. Matt Slick. Intellect. I'm going to say average. I'm tempted to say below average, but I'm going to say average. Emotional stability, I'm going to say below average. I actually talked to Matt Slick once in a Discord. And I got right to the root of why he believes, right to the core. And there might even be people listening to this live stream who was there listening in. And I got him to break down and cry by getting deep on what and why he really believes in Christianity. And it boiled down to him experiencing Jesus in a real and powerful way from the death of his daughter, was it? Yeah, I think that's it. So, using the tag arguments, the philosophical arguments, these are ways, the moral arguments, these are ways he tries to not feel stupid for what he believes, to justify that what he thinks is him experiencing the real Jesus on a certain day and a certain time in history. I think he is very emotionally unstable. Popularity, he's below average. Effectiveness, he's below average. I think he can be entertaining to watch, and I think he's very good rhetorically. But overall, I think most people are turned off by the precept shtick. Here, I don't think I've talked about Michael Licona. Intellect, I'd say above average. Emotional stability, below average. I think the reason why he believes is because of emotional type experiences in his life. Yet he's intelligent, and so I think this is why he's constantly conflicted. This is, I think, why he is only at 80% Christian. No, that's the wrong way to put it. His confidence in Christianity is only at 80%. I asked him that. I've talked to him on my live stream, and I think that's what he said, 80%. Popularity. A lot of evangelicals dislike Michael Licona with a passion. And it's because he'll say stuff like the Gospel of John, manufactured stuff. So Michael Licona is an atheist like me. He's a dream. He's a source of so much quote mining. Quote mining is not bad as long as you're not misrepresenting. And so, yeah, he's popular to atheists, I think, but not popular to most evangelicals. Effectiveness, I'd say I put him average, like Gary Habermas. Those two are joined at the hip. I think their minimal facts thing is going to fall flat on their face to Christians who actually stop and think about it. Because, I've done a couple of videos on the minimal facts of Mormonism. And as soon as I do that, the average Christian will say, but, and they'll bring in other facts to squash the minimal facts for Mormonism. And I say, don't you get it? This is what non-Christians do with Gary Habermas's minimal facts. We bring in other stuff. So the minimal facts are not minimal anymore. Just like with Mormonism, if you're pulling stuff in. Oh, Joseph Smith was a con man. But what does that have to do with the minimal facts? Well, we can now remove them, they say. Well, this is what people do with Gary Habermas's minimal facts. They start pulling it apart because those minimal facts are based on a mountain of other mini facts, or not mini facts. Yeah. I don't know Alan Schleman. Should I know him? Well, actually, maybe I do. That name sounds familiar. Yeah, I do. He's in with Tim Barnett and friends and Greg Kokel, right? But I actually don't know enough about him to make a judgment. Or do I? No, my impression of him is not good. But I don't know why, so I will pass. If I'm right that he's in with the Greg Kokel and Tim Barnett, out of that group, I would say Tim Barnett is the best. David Wood and Jeff Durbin. David Wood, intellectual, I'd say average. Emotional stability, below average by far. Well, hang on a second. He acts like he is unstable and that he needs Jesus, otherwise his life would fall apart. But I'm not so sure that's true. That could be an act. That could be a shtick. Popularity, he's above average. He's very popular because he trounces Islam. Effectiveness, yeah, for the typical evangelical who's scared of Sharia law and thinks Islam's going to take over the country, he's very effective because that fear, he feeds that fear. Yeah, I think that's all I'll say about David Wood. Jeff Durbin I already talked about. Or did I? For people who came late, intellectual, below average, emotional, below average. You got to remember, he became a Christian because he almost died of overdose of drugs. Popularity, I would say, yeah, he's pretty popular. He just lives 2 hours away from me in the Phoenix area, and I think he has a pretty good following. He's big on getting money from Christians to end abortion. By the way, if you want a business model how to siphon money from Christians, yeah, just fight abortion. That's a great way to do it. Is that too cynical? It sure sounded cynical even to my ears. Effectiveness, yeah, I think he can I think precepts can be effective when talking to non-Christians. However, for Christians, I don't know. It almost doesn't even come up because they're all in the same tribe. So you got to remember that precepts, Calvinists, even though they will say that they're evangelical minded, they are going to try to help lead people to Christ. Because they're Calvinists, they understand what it really is, that it's all God and not man, the true grace. I really do think their effectiveness for evangelism goes down. How can it not if you believe that before the foundations of the earth, God knew who was going to be in heaven and in hell? From God's perspective, it's a done deal. N.T. Wright, I don't know Lisa. Let me double check. Maybe I do know Lisa. Quintana? Oh yeah, I'm familiar with her a little bit, but not enough to make a judgment. N.T. Wright, intellectual, above average, emotional stability, above average, popularity, especially in the more orthodox world, or mainline, I should say, world, he's popular. So above average, effectiveness, above average. Just having a British accent helps. Craig Blomberg. Ugh, yeah, I know who that is. Intellectual, I'd say above average. Emotional stability, above average. Popularity, below average. Effectiveness, below average. Although he beat Vince Vitale, but I don't know who you are, Vince. Sorry. J.P. Moreland. Oh, this guy bothers me for some reason. And again, I'm not talking about, it's just, I wouldn't even want to golf with him, I don't think. Intellectual, I'm going to say average at best. I've listened to some of his stuff. I think I have a video on him. He's not as bright as some people think. What percentage of these are men? Asked Adam. My guess is 95%. J.P. Moreland, intellectual average, emotional stability above average, popularity I'd say below average. He used to be more popular in the 90s, I think. Effectiveness below average now. Don't know that person. Hillary Short. Hillary Short. I don't know who that is. Is that I know there's a Hillary, but I think that's and I don't know who Francis Beckwith is either. Do you guys know these names? No. Oh, he's a philosopher, American philosopher. And he beat Hillary, but Francis lost bad to J.P. Moreland. I actually like John. Is this the John who I think it is? From JMD Apologetics? Is that the John Dumphy? No, maybe that's someone else. If this is JMD Apologetics, if that's who I think it is, then I actually think John has above average intellect. I think he's very above average emotional stability. He's not popular yet, and I don't think he's that effective yet, but he has potential. And then the rest is consolation round. I won't go to the round of 256. Amy Hall. She's the call screener for Greg Kokel. And she got all the way over here on the consolation round. Oh, she beat Timothy McGrew. Hey, Tim, you got beat by a call screener. Oh, my goodness. Hillary Short's supposed to be Mama Bear Apologetics. Yes, that's what I thought. But her real name, is it Farrar or something like that? Yeah, my opinion on Mama Bear Apologetics is it's like this fear of our kids can't leave Christianity because they'll burn in hell forever. Or it's the fear of this progressive Christianity. It's like, we got to stay to that old-time religion. Give me that old-time religion. It's like that kind of apologetics. It's Yeah. Feminism ain't so big in Christianity. Well, it depends on how you define feminism. Feminism ain't so big anywhere, depending on how you define it. I would say some Christians would say Christianity invented feminism. It's like neither male nor female, Gentile or Jew. We're all the same in Christ. And then they kind of avoid the Old Testament stuff or the stuff that Paul wrote about women being silent. So I might as well make my predictions of who's going to win this thing. That's the consolation round. Got to go up here. Okay, so Sweet 16, Elite 8. Ravi Zacharias versus Matt Whitman. I predict Matt Whitman should win, but Ravi Zacharias is going to win if it's true he has bone cancer. It's the sympathy vote. So it's going to be Ravi versus Lee Strobel versus John Lennox. It's going to be Lee Strobel. So it's going to be Ravi Zacharias versus Lee Strobel, and Ravi Zacharias is going to win because he's probably going to die soon. Oh, is that? Oh, there's more people. Okay, then it's going to be James White versus Michael Brown. James White's going to win that, my prediction. Why are they behind here? Braxton Hunter versus Jeff Durbin. Jeff Durbin's going to win. Okay, so it's going to be Jeff Durbin. I tell you, evidentialists they have a huge disadvantage because they got to defend almost like terrible evidence for huge claims. So this is why precepts have a huge advantage. So Jeff Durbin's going to beat Braxton Hunter. And who will he be against? Either James White or Michael Brown. And James White's going to beat Michael Brown easily, as my prediction. Oh my! These guys work together. James White versus Jeff Durbin. James White will beat Jeff. Well, that's a coin flip. I'm going to give it to James White. So who's James White going to be against? The winner of Lee Strobel and Ravi Zacharias, and it's going to be Ravi Zacharias because of the sympathy vote. So it's going to be Ravi Zacharias versus James White, and Ravi will beat James White. Again, because of the sympathy vote. So your winner is going to be Ravi Zacharias. Book it. You could call your bookie, your agent. And I would say 10-1 odds is fair. Against James White, I'll make it 3-1. 2.75 to 1 for Ravi. So Ravi's going to beat James White. James White's going to beat Jeff Durbin. Ravi Zacharias is going to beat Lee Strobel. If I'm wrong about him does he have bone cancer? If I'm wrong about that, then everything changes. Ravi Zacharias, bone cancer. I read that somewhere. Yeah, Christian apologist Ravi Zacharias reveals he has bone cancer. Diagnosed with a rare form. Oh, I hate these. The sacrum. We are trusting the Lord in this. We believe we have already seen evidence of his hand. Yeah. What does that even mean? We're trusting the Lord in this. Are you trusting the Lord that you're going to be healed, Ravi? Be specific. They will wait until I'm fully healed from back surgery in 4 to 5 weeks and will begin treatment to shrink the tumor. So what stage is he in? Thank goodness for medical science, right, Ravi? If you had a choice between prayer alone or science alone, what would you choose, Ravi? Be honest. Prayer alone or medical science alone? What would you choose in this situation? This is, questions like this is where the rubber hits the road. Okay, now I'm going to focus on the chat a little bit. I'd like to hear them give examples of things that would not be evidence. Great question, David. You guys think I was right about my prediction? It's going to be Ravi versus James White, and Ravi will win. Justin Maurer, who has a PhD in PineCreek studies, way more valuable than a PhD from Trinity University. Can you talk about what's going on with this whole ranking exercise? Who put it together? Yeah, it was put together by an apologist named what's their name? Apologetics something. Anyhow, just a smaller type apologist with a website put it together. I think they've been doing this a few years. Who do I think will win if he didn't have cancer? Then it would be Lee Strobel versus James White. That would be a tougher match. I'd say Lee Strobel. Lee Strobel has that shucks darn type persona. Very popular book. It's popular for Christians. Of course, it's not popular to non-Christians. It's like, if you didn't realize this, Christians listening, that books like Lee Strobel's, Josh McDowell's, we look at it, we look at the core findings of it, and we laugh. Good question, Nick. If the Lord's going to help you, why do you need surgery? Well, God works through surgeons as well, Nick. Would any of these apologists benefit by being a guest on PineCreek? Probably not. That's why a lot of them don't care to come on. You got to remember that most of apologetics is not for evangelism. It's to build the confidence in people who are ready to believe, to keep them in the belief. Seriously, Lennox beats Strobel. Maybe. Lennox. The problem with Lennox is he believes in a literal Adam and Eve. For young people today, young Christians, unless you're homeschooled in a very conservative part of the country, you just can't. Lennox portrays himself as this intellectual mathematician who believes that the Genesis story is literal. I think I got him on record saying that. Devin says, "Are you still doing interviews? I thought you were bored." Oh yeah, I have maybe, possibly a guy from Kingdom in Context. He's a very articulate, civil, mild-mannered Christian who, what's his real name? I forget. But he's the guy who talked to Inspiring Philosophy a while back. And he's, get this, he is a Unitarian. Well, let me put it this way. He's not a Trinitarian. He believes in a flat earth. He takes the Bible seriously when it says certain things. So he's less to view it as figures of speech and so forth. And I emailed him, and I think he'll come on. He'll ask me questions as well. So I'm interested in interviewing him because he's different. I don't think I've ever talked to a non-Trinitarian Christian before, or have I? Not on my channel, I don't think. But as far as interviewing people that I was talking about in this March Madness, them coming on my show would be like arm wrestling their sister. They got everything to lose and nothing to gain, so they won't do it. Because guys like me have such a huge advantage over them in the sense that I can easily say I don't know. I can easily say I could be wrong. I can easily say Christianity might be true. For the average apologist, when their listeners or followers are listening to them say, Christianity could be false. I could be wrong. I mean, not just possibly, but plausibly wrong. Some of them could say that, but a lot of them, they don't want to lower the confidence in their followers, and so they have a huge problem admitting stuff like this. I'm not sure if Lennox denies evolution, but he still embraces the Adam and Eve story. So there's ways, painful ways to put that together. But it is possible. My apologies to the apologist listening if I hurt your feelings. But you'll get over it. Just go to your bedroom and cry for an hour and you'll be okay. Have a great Sunday, guys. Take care.